Welcome to the pocket. My name is Scooter, here with my Week 9 reaction video to the Giants' loss to the Commanders at home, falling to 2-7. And here with you today, I have a special guest.
Hi guys, my name's Gene. I am Scott's older brother, if you couldn't tell the resemblance. I've been a Giants fan ever since 2007, so I've got to see them win two Super Bowls in the glory days of the 2000s decade. But got to endure the worst of it right now. It sucks, but we're here, and I love Scott's channel, so we're here to support. I played football. I played Pop Warner, played a lot in high school. I'm a big defense guy, so like second level linebacker
Yeah.
and secondary, like that's my stuff. So that's what I like to tune into for the games.
Yeah, so Gene got the luxury to witness the Super Bowls. I was not really a Giants fan until maybe like Odell's rookie year when I was in eighth grade, freshman year of high school. And part of my love for football definitely came from, I played at a young age, but watching my brother Gene play in high school. And when I was a freshman, he was a senior, and watching the games before when I was in middle school really invigorated the energy and
Mm-hmm.
instilled it into me and, put that culture into me. So a big reason why I love football is definitely Gene. So credit to him for being part of my inspiration. But without further ado, let's get into the breakdown. And to start off, I will give you a quarter by quarter breakdown and the box score. So, with 7 minutes remaining in the first quarter, the Commanders capped off a very, very long, time consuming drive with a 1 yard Terry McLaurin 1 yard catch for a touchdown on a quick slant. Now, I do believe on that play there was a bit of a miscommunication between Drew Phillips and Deonte Banks. It looked like it was all Banks' fault, but really they were supposed to switch or something. Either way, that's a failure by the secondary. But then the Giants respond with a long drive of their own, basically only running the ball all the way down the field until the very end at the 1 yard line, where they did a play action pass to Chris Manhertz, where Daniel Jones threw a nice ball, and Manhertz high pointed it and caught it for his first touchdown pass at home since January of 2023.
Shout out to Chris Manhertz.
Yeah,
Way to go for your third one.
yeah, third career touchdown for the blocking tight end. You love to see it. But then for the rest of the second quarter, it was not good for the Giants or their offense. The Commanders drove down the field, punched it in on a 1 yard touchdown rush with Eckler with 6 minutes left. Giants, I believe, went 3 and out, and then the Commanders went down the field, and then with 11 seconds left from the Giants' 18-yard line, um, it seemed like they were mismanaging the clock. They weren't calling their timeouts, but apparently they knew what they were doing because they threw a nice fade route to Terry McLaurin, who's being covered by Banks, who once again couldn't get his head around and allowed a touchdown. I believe he leads the league in touchdowns allowed. That is really rough.
Not good.
Not good. Now into the third quarter, Giants make some adjustments. They drive down the field and get a stop on defense, and they kick a field goal. The score is now 21-10 at that point. Commanders respond with a field goal with 30 seconds left in the third quarter, and time is just running out in this game. They're up 2 touchdowns entering the fourth quarter. But then the Giants, they didn't quit. They got down to the field with 9 minutes left in the fourth, and Daniel Jones had an awesome touchdown run, trucking two defenders and getting in there. We tried a 2 point conversion down 2 touchdowns. We'll get into that later. We did not convert, and then they kick a field goal. It's pretty much out of reach. They're up by 9 points, but then Giants with 2 minutes and 48 seconds left from, I believe it was like the 25-yard line, connect on a nice pass thrown by Daniel Jones to Theo Johnson down the seam for a touchdown. We tried the 2 point to make it a field goal game, and we could not get it done. 27-22 is the final, and the Giants fall to 2-7. So before we get into a little bit of the player performances, I just want to comment about the egregious call on, first of all, the fumble. The whistle was blown, so it was blown dead. And not only that, but they gave it to them as if they recovered it and got tackled at our own 31-yard line. So that was egregious. We've been getting screwed by the refs all year. And then the BS call on Slayton for the offensive PI. We got hit with one of those on Theo Johnson. against Eagles, and it was just again another touchdown taken off the board. So, what do you think about this season with these calls just not going our way?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's a lot of miscommunications and maybe coaching errors on the offense. Like you got to be able to sell these pick plays, or else they're going to call these OPIs on us. So that's all I really have to say about the OPI.
Mhm.
And then the fumble, we'll get into it a little bit later, but I mean, DJ's got to hold on to the ball there.
Yeah,
And I know the whistle was blown, but if I'm Devin Singletary, I'm falling on the ball there
yeah,
because he was in the area. I don't necessarily blame him for what happened,
yeah.
but
That's part of the confusion. The whistle gets blown. I'm pretty sure that's why he sort of pulled up, didn't want to get hurt. But I kind of agree, just like dive on it for insurance.
mhm.
Maybe he didn't want to get hurt, but
When you're a 2-7 team, stuff like that happens.
that's
So
right. Yeah, players. Not to say he took a playoff, but he made a judgment business decision right there, and he paid for it. So now we'll get into the kind of the better performers and then the disappointments of the game in our opinion. For me, Daniel Jones played one of his best games this year. He had the rushing touchdown. He ran the ball well. I'm not gonna say it was a negative thing that he had 0 yards in the first half because it was kind of a play calling thing, but that was a little questionable. But 174 in the second, and he had that touchdown pass to Theo Johnson, who's my second, top performer. He only had 3 catches for like 54 yards and a touchdown, but I think for a rookie tight end, a really hard position to learn, that's pretty good. What do you think?
yeah, first for DJ, I would agree with you. I think this was probably his best game that he's played all year, despite like not throwing that much in the first half. I feel like he had pretty good command of the offense. And then in the second half, they just kind of had to let it rip because they were down
Right.
2 scores. And I think he responded well, even though the defense, I feel like, kind of let him down. And as far as Theo Johnson goes, like, we've been kind of begging for a tight end
Yeah.
presence like all year. So it's finally a good sign to see Theo kind of break out of his shell a little bit. I want to see it more, and I want him to keep developing as a player. And I also think he's really good in run blocking too. I think he's been a huge asset there.
Yeah, he's a big
But
guy.
uh, but yeah, I mean, love to see those two guys play well.
Absolutely. And then for the disappointments, we could talk about the offensive line and we could talk about, this offense still has its shortcomings. But to me, the entire defense and specifically Banks and the edge group really let us down in this game. Banks let up, really, it was one touchdown because, as I said earlier in the video, Drew Phillips was supposed to switch with them on that slant to McLaurin. But, you know, you got to imagine with 11 seconds left in the first half, they're not. Who cares if you let up like a 10-yard out or something like that, or a slant? You got safeties and linebackers on the inside who can make the tackle. They wouldn't even do that. What are they going to do if they throw it? They're going to throw in the end zone. And he didn't get his head around. He allowed that to happen. He's had trouble all year, as I said, most touchdowns allowed. And then the edge group. I mean, I know Daniels is really, really talented quarterback who navigates the pocket well, but you can't. We tried doing the same thing, blitzing guys like Drew Phillips. He got juked out, and you really need to rush for, keep everyone in coverage, and find a way to get sacks. And we didn't. They just doubled Dexter, and I had expectations for his season. He didn't get it done. So, what did you just think about the defense as a whole and these two position groups?
Yeah. Starting with Deonte Banks, he was just getting picked on all game, man. He honestly he kind of looks lost out there in this system. Um, we drafted him last year when we had Wink Martindale. We were
Yeah,
talking about this earlier. We think that he kind of fits that scheme a little better, where we're playing a little bit more man. And he's just, it's like he's not a cornerback anymore. Like
yeah,
he's just not playing up to his potential. And I feel like the confidence is really hurting him right now. And once he gets that confidence back, I'm confident that he has the skills to be a good cornerback in this league. But right now, the young player that he is, it's just not there. It's not working for him right now. And then the edge group, yeah, I was a little disappointed that they didn't get home.
yeah,
I think Burns played okay, but I also think that Washington was using a lot of their wingbacks and running backs at chip on their way out to routes. So that was really helping out their offensive line with what I think is a great pass rush that we have for the defense. So I think that was more a good job on Washington's end than it was a bad job on our end.
Yeah, I agree. Washington's a really difficult offense to prepare for.
Mm.
We did a good job getting home with the nickel and safety blitzes we ran in the first game, but that was only week two, and it seemed really like ever since that game, the Commanders have only ever gotten better, and we just failed to grow with them this season. And you saw the difference at least on the offensive defensive matchup in this game. Now, I'm going to get into some more questions directly for Gene. You guys have heard me talk a lot this year. You kind of know where I stand on a lot of these players and situations. So we're going to get Gene's take on these. And starting things off, what I want to ask you once again about Daniel Jones, just what do you think about him more overall this year? Were you encouraged by this game, or do you think it's just kind of like, he had one good game in like every four, and this is just how it is?
For me, it's the inconsistency that you get with Jones in this system. I think Daboll is kind of done with Daniel Jones. I
Yeah,
think the team is starting to get frustrated that the offense, for the most part this year, has not been getting it done. But I would say for this game, he played well. And I think in the right system with the right coaching, where he could get his confidence back and his feet back under him, I think he could play well. But I think it's just done for us. I think the writing's on the wall.
yeah.
I think he's in hot water right now, to say the least.
Yeah, a lot. I mentioned before, a lot of people like to treat these professional athletes like they're robots and they just need to do the job that they're being tasked with. But these are people. And I just think emotionally, the Giants are drained with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is drained with being the franchise quarterback of this team, locker room, and fan base that just doesn't seem to be behind him. And even though he did have a good game, it might be encouraging for the rest of the season, but not. It's not going to convince me to hold on to him.
Yeah, and then one more thing I do want to add is, I mean, I love Saquon, but I feel like it was good for both of us to just get out of that situation.
Yeah,
And I kind of feel the same way about Daniel Jones in this situation. I know we paid him. In hindsight, it was a mistake.
yeah.
I don't blame them for paying him because it was a tough scenario. We weren't in a spot to draft somebody that off season. That's where we drafted Banks. So like
Correct.
we were drafting too late. There wasn't a big QB free agency that year, and we were just kind of backed into a corner.
Yeah,
We were like negotiating with ourselves.
right,
I think we paid him too much money, but I think we needed to retain him at least.
right.
So I don't know. I just think everybody needs a fresh start,
Yeah,
and it'll benefit both sides.
100%. Yeah, this Daniel Jones thing. You look at
I'm getting
quarterbacks around
sick
the
of it.
league. Yeah, I mean, guys get benched, and after 1 year, Bryce Young, and there's other quarterbacks who are under the age of like 26. And I know Daniel Jones is a little bit older than that, but you understand where I'm going with this. Is he's had quite the leash. And me personally, you can ask Gene. I've been one of the biggest Daniel Jones defenders, apologists, whatever you want to call it, for years, telling people how bad the situation is. It's not conducive for developing a young guy. But this season, the switch just kind of flicked, and I'm like, it's just over. Emotionally, it's nothing's there. But let's move on to something that is, I guess, slightly more positive in terms of like how it's been over the years. But the offensive line and Chris Hubbard in this game. We've seen worse performances, but what did you think about Hubbard specifically? But the offensive line as a unit, do you think it's improving since the Thomas injury? Was this an easier matchup? What do you think?
Yeah, I gotta say, last week Chris Hubbard looked bad. He
Yeah.
looked really. He was one of the worst offensive linemen I'd seen play this year. This week, I think he played better. I think a large part of that fumble that we had on offense was due to him failing to block Dante Fowler of the
Mhm.
Washington Commanders. But I think he had a better game. I think the offensive line as a whole in the game gave DJ enough time to throw the
Yeah.
ball. It looked like he had a pocket. And, before Andrew Thomas, I was very happy with how the offensive line was playing. Compared to past years, like, I'm so used to seeing the pocket collapse in like a second and a half. And DJ has some time to throw. So I'm overall encouraged with the offensive line. I think we need depth.
Yeah.
I think we're really lacking depth. As you can tell, we lose Andrew Thomas, and our offensive line is just non-existent. So
Shambles. Yeah.
we need Joe Shane's got to fix that this
He
offseason.
does. Yeah, I think he took some steps signing guys like Van Roten and Illuminor to pair with Priscilla. I think that was really smart. But they're both Van Roten's a little bit older. Illuminor can stay for a couple
Mm,
years. In this preseason, I was saying I think we have decent depth because I was like, oh, maybe Evan Neal or Illuminor will be a swing tackle.
mm.
Turns out we only had two tackles, Thomas and Illuminor, because they don't seem to believe in Neal at all. I'm really surprised they don't throw him out there, but I guess he really is just that bad, or he's like Daniel Jones and his confidence is just broken. So I too am encouraged once again by the way the line looks compared to past years, and that they seem to be adjusting to the injury, and we can still run the ball. But yeah, I still think we need some work and some depth moving forward. And now moving on to, I want to ask you about what do you think about this Giants group of weapons? What they've done this year, what they did in this game, and we mentioned earlier in the video Theo Johnson. What do you think about the potential of this group of weapons? Because we're talking new quarterback. What would they be walking into?
Yeah. Um, yeah, the weapons are tough. Obviously, you gotta love Malik. Malik Neighbors is a dog. I
Dangerous
know
vegetable.
he didn't have the best game against Washington the second time around,
Mm-hmm.
but he's a bona fide dog.
Yeah,
Like,
he is.
let's get that out of the way. As far as everyone else, I love the running back room right now. I think they're really coming along. Tyrone Tracy is playing really well.
Mm-hmm.
Devin Singletary, I could take it or leave it, but
Yeah.
he's a veteran presence and he's pretty good in pass pro. So I think you gotta have him on the team just to kind of ease Tyrone Tracy into that role. But he's doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It just feels like we were hyping up the rest of this wide receiver core,
Yeah.
and they've just kind of been underperforming. I don't know if you attribute that to DJ. I think Darius Slayton is still getting separation. I
Mm-hmm.
still think he's a guy that we could retain long term. Everyone else, I'm just kind of like meh about. Like,
Yeah.
I thought Wandell can be somebody.
Yeah.
He, like you said it last week. Like, he's no yak. Like, we're throwing him the
Right.
ball 3 to 4 yards down the field. He's basically an extension of the run game. Like,
Yeah.
he can't get us and like
Yards after contact.
he
You won't
can't
break
generate the big
tackles.
plays.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. We just need more. We need new faces at wide receiver. And then I think as long as Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger, Chris Manhertz can
Mm-hmm.
work things out and kind of develop more as players, I'm I feel pretty good about the tight end
Yeah.
room right now.
Yeah. I was thinking on my way home today about I mentioned it all the way back um, after or before the Dallas game. I really wonder why, since we've proven the struggle to find two really steady wide receivers, why don't we run more two tight end sets? We're talking about why we want to run the ball, right? Because Daniel Jones is struggling behind a bad offensive line. Why don't we put two tight ends out there, have Malik and Wandale, and then just run the ball? Not to mention, two tight ends allows you to chip. You can chip from both sides, or you can slide protection and just kind of, give your offensive line some help. Of course, they can still release, and all the routes are still going to be there. So I'm really wondering why we're not running more heavy tight end sets. But yeah, I just think I agree with Gene. Outside of Malik and the potential of the tight end room and Tracy, I think we're really thin at weapons because when you look at guys like Slayton, I think Slayton's like a great three, and I think he's actually gotten better over the years. But
Mm-hmm.
I do think he'll still have a couple drops, or you just want a little bit more out of him. But if he's your third or fourth wide receiver, you're good with that. Wandale, he needs to break more tackles, and maybe teams know what's coming from him. If he was like the fourth or fifth option, I think he would be a lot more dangerous. But yeah, so I think the weapons they're getting there. We've had weapon problems for years since we lost Odell, and it was all on Saquon. So I think we're getting there. We're getting a little more versatile, but I still think we're in desperate need of a wide receiver too,
Mm-hmm.
like a good one too, like a T Higgins,
Yeah.
someone I'm thinking about. But yeah, so that's the weapons, and then just Brian Daboll's coaching on offense. What do you think about this game from him in the coaching?
You know, I don't think you can really blame him for running the ball as much as he did in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
I think just the way that the game kind of played out, they kind of gotten a little bit of a hole late in the first half.
Yeah,
And I think if they had gotten the ball back, they would have passed the ball more in the
right.
first half. I I honestly think he was just trying to protect DJ and his offensive line that's hurt right now. And by running the ball, you can kind of help out your offensive line in terms of setting up pass pro and just generating positive plays. Like that's what you want in a divisional matchup. Like you need positive plays, you need to be moving the ball forward and generating offense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think whatever he needs to call to make that happen.
Yeah.
Like honestly, um I saw him run something that we ran in
The
the
wing
flex.
T.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the handoff to Darius Slayton. I love that. I thought that was a
Really
creative.
creative.
It was a creative run play that you don't see a lot in the NFL. And I mean, he almost scored on
He
that.
did.
Like he was like 2 yards away from a score. So I mean, you gotta love that. But I don't know. I can like people are dogging Daboll on his play
Yeah.
calling. I think he's pretty limited right now in what he can do with what he has.
Yeah. He's trying to make whatever that analogy is about making chicken salad or something like that out of absolute garbage. That's what he's doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Jones and this offensive line. You could go back and forth between who you want to blame, but altogether, when you're trying to call offensive plays for that, and you know the protection's not going to hold up, and you know your quarterback's going to make some boneheaded decisions, you're going to have a lot of hesitancy to, create a rhythm passing the ball. But that's enough about the offense. Let's move on to the defense. Probably not as much to say, I think, about the defensive
Yeah.
performance, but yeah, they seem to double Dexter pretty much every play and, dare us to sack Jaden Daniels with either a nickel blitz or Aziz and Burns. What did you think about that? Because I have quite a bit to say about this, but give me your thoughts about the results from the defensive line.
Yeah, the line just it kind of just seemed like they were playing to contain Jaden Daniels,
Yeah,
whereas I feel like we were blitzing them a lot the first game, and we were getting home on those nickel blitzes. But I also feel like that created a lot of holes, and Jaden obviously watched his film,
yeah,
and he tore us apart in the passing game, just getting big chunk plays left and right. So I feel like when your pass rush isn't getting there, it just kind of opens up our Swiss cheese secondary
yeah.
to like big plays like that. And it sucks that the pass rush wasn't getting there, but again, like I got to give it to Washington. They game planned well for our front.
Yeah, and I think something I was a little delusional or in denial about early on this season was the Giants are still leading the NFL in sacks, if I am correct. But a big reason for that was that Seattle and Browns game, we had 15 sacks in those games alone. When you look at the rest of the games, obviously, if you're losing or you're in a bad game script where you're trailing, you're not going to get as many sacks, right? But um, what I think's been happening is we've kind of created the Dallas defensive style. We were winning those Browns and Seahawks games or competitive with them, and what that does is it allows this pass rush of ours to tee off and say they're going to pass.
Mm-hmm.
So let's not waste a second thinking, oh, what if it's a draw? What if they run it? Let's just go get Geno Smith or Deshaun Watson. And what do you know? They got 7 or 8 sacks, and
Mm-hmm.
they did have to pass, and it worked out perfectly. It looked like our defense was like top 5. But then you get games where we're losing, right? And you can't tee off because they're going to be running the ball, close to half the time, and our run defense is not good. So what ends up happening is the defensive line is now saying, okay, we got to make up for this lack of run defense. But now we're not getting sacks because we're missing that extra half second we get when we're teeing off on the pass. So I think we have a very game script dependent defense, which is okay because it can take over a game. But until we become a quality offense, it's going to just kind of seem like an average defense. We lead the league in 35 sacks. Next closest is the Jets and Broncos at 31, and that's really, really good. But I'm pretty sure we had 0 sacks in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Washington allowed 0 sacks, and I specifically remember watching live Drew Phillips nickel blitz coming in with his hair on fire, and Daniel Jones Jaden Daniels just
Yep.
stepped right up in the pocket because nobody else was getting home, and Dexter Lawrence would normally clean up a play like that, but it wasn't there. So that's what I have to say about the defensive line. I do think it is a very good unit, but it's very game script dependent. Now, moving on. We mentioned this man before. I have a lot of passion attached to this guy, but Deonte Banks specifically, and the secondary, and that's including like the linebackers in coverage too.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of third and longs, or second and longs, or even just first and tens. It didn't seem to matter what down it was. If we were in like a zone coverage, we were letting up big plays every down, first,
Mm-hmm.
second, and third down, every situation. Whenever they needed to make a play, they made it. So, what do you make of Deonte Banks' performance this game, this season, and just the secondary as a whole? Also, including what we've said about the defensive line. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I think the secondary does get bailed out a lot by our pass rush for sure, especially in those games that we're up.
Mhm.
Um, in games that were competitive, I think I think it's kind of weird to say these players are getting used to the scheme in a week 9 game, but I think Banks is still having trouble like just getting his head around, just getting the little things done.
Mhm. The
The
fundamentals.
Yeah, the one touchdown at the 1 yard line, I don't blame him that much for it. That's a tough route to cover.
Yeah.
It's not even really a slant. It's a dude takes one step
Mhm.
and then is running down the goal line, just trying to create space.
And that's Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, so like there's not much you could do unless you have inside help with that. The other touchdown he let up though, he bit on an inside fake where it's pretty clear they're in cover 4, and he needs to maintain his inside leverage and force the outside ball, and then get his head around and try and make a play on the ball. And not only Banks, but Cordell Flott on the PI that he had, he made contact with Noah Brown and also didn't get his head around. So that's why they threw that flag. Otherwise, I feel like Flott and Adoree Jackson played okay. Drew Phillips and Tyler Nubin, the two rookies, had 2 plays where they each missed tackles, and I think Washington ran for a first down on that. But the secondary's just got to shore up, and they're really young. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for them to like really gel together. But that's pretty much my takeaways with the secondary. Like I said before, just Swiss cheese on these games.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like they're adjusting well to the scheme change, at least on the back end, when the rush can't make up for, what they're not doing well in zone coverage. And yeah, I mean, I think we kind of already covered like the defensive game plan by Shane Bowen. I mean, he did his best to contain Jaden Daniels, but all it really resulted in was him having time to throw and, allowing our secondary to leave open holes in the zone. And that's, pretty
Mm-hmm.
much everything that happened there the entire game. Not much changed from the defensive side. We couldn't stop the run, and that was the story on passing plays.
Mm-hmm.
Now, um, just real quick, special teams has been a problem all year. I think for the most part they looked okay in this game, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to throw the 2 point conversion decisions in here. What do you think about the analytics based like choice by Daboll to go for 2 touchdowns, considering how ineffective our offense can be in the red zone?
Right. Yeah, a lot of people seem to be really mad at Dayball for going for these 2 point conversions. I'm gonna defend him a little bit, where we're down 2 scores in that point. If we get the 2 point conversion on that second touchdown, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was the second touchdown. Then that kind of really puts us in a good position. If
hmm
we hold Washington's offense,
at
then
least
the
once.
following possession, then that leaves us in prime position to make a comeback and maybe flip the script and see if we can beat the Washington Commanders. But at the end of the day, I think it just speaks more to how bad our red zone offense and just our offense as a whole is. Like
Yeah,
that we can't convert these 2 point conversions, because if we were a competent offense, we'd be converting around 40%, which is what the league is. I think it's a little less than 30% the league is right now
yeah,
on
this
two
year is
point.
bad.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about the 2 point conversions.
So my take on the 2 points is, yeah, I agree with the philosophy, but even though our red zone offense has struggled, and just our offense in general has really not been consistent, and you wouldn't really want to bank on it. In the end of the day, I think you got to practice these things. Gene was telling me you got to make a spark somehow, right? I'm not sure benching him, Daniel Jones for Drew Lock is the right way to do it in like the fourth quarter when it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But going for two in a lot of situations can absolutely change the season. You look at what happened the year we made the playoffs in week one. We went for two against Tennessee. Now, we did have Saquon, so he's like a 2 point conversion weapon. But we went for it and it paid off, right? Now, that's a little bit of a different situation, but it's just about the aggressiveness. People were talking about early on in the year, it really didn't seem like our offense was aggressive at all. So you can't have your cake and eat it. You got to pick one. And me personally, my stance is I want us to be aggressive. So now that we've covered the game, that is all for the Giants Commanders recap and reaction. What we're going to go into now is Gene is going to bless us with his take on the Giants this whole season, rest of the season, off season. What should we do? So let me ask you, for this rest of the season, what do you foresee? Like, how many wins? Then what do you really want to happen? Like, do you want us to win games? Do you not want us to win games? And then whatever that may be, what should our plan of attack be in the offseason? So I've got the Giants schedule here. Up next, we've got Panthers, Bucks, Cowboys, Saints, Ravens, Falcons, Colts, Eagles. So that's 8.
Yeah, quite a gauntlet there at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you what right now. If we can't beat the Panthers in Munich, Germany next week, they're benching Daniel Jones.
They are. Yeah.
They're going to go into their bye week after that, and if we can't beat the Panthers there, we're doomed.
It's over
for this season. And Daniel Jones is seemingly boomed.
Do you think we win though?
I think we should. I think we could. I think our defense can get under Bryce Young's skin. So I think, like me, I think we win that game. I think we have a good chance against the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the Cowboys with Dak out and their defense still a little hurt, that could be a toss-up. But, I mean, we're 0-4 in the division, so I can't say that with any confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe the Colts we can get a win against, but that's putting our ceiling at 6 wins right now. So I'll just split the difference and say we're gonna go 4-13 this year.
Four and
yeah, 17 games.
Yeah,
so
correct.
4-13 it would be my prediction for the rest of the year. Let's just say we beat the Panthers and the Saints, and then we lose every other game.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. Is that our only really? I'm not even going to say guaranteed wins, but the games that we're going to be favored in, I think Panthers, Saints, and you can look at the Colts and Cowboys game, and the Bucks are a little beat up, but they still look really good. So and maybe a team like the Falcons has a bad week against us. You never know when we're going to just rip off a couple wins. And hey, if Tommy Cutlets gets in there, you really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It could really could cause a spark for the team.
Really
but so. If you think we're going to go 4-13, what do you actually want to happen? Do you want us to go 4-13? Do you want us to lose every game for the rest of the year, or do you want us to have a year like last year where we go on a winning streak?
I mean, obviously, I don't want my team to end up 4-13 at the end of the year.
Yeah.
As far as getting a QB for next year in the draft, it certainly helps us if we lose. I'm not going to actively root against my team.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a good chance of losing a majority of our games the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm going to need to really prey on their downfall.
Yeah.
But it does ultimately help us if we lose out the rest of the year. But I don't want that to happen. I think I want us to win a few more games. I don't want to sit through losses every week. You know, that's just me as a fan. I'll let the front office figure out what they're going to do in the off season. Just as me watching, like I hate watching my team lose.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like watching them lose, especially when it's bad. They lose a competitive game like they did against the Commanders and the Steelers. I don't mind. The Bengals game and the Eagles game were a bit harder to swallow. A lot messier games. So as long as we're competitive and all the games moving forward, except the Ravens are probably going to destroy us. The Eagles destroyed us last time. So for me, I'm kind of in the same camp where like I'm not going to actively root against the Giants. I'm going to root for them to win every week. But in the end of the day, if they do lose, you just accept it and you say, well, at least it's going to improve our draft position, and we need a quarterback. We're both in agreement on that. This offseason. So besides quarterback in the offseason, what do you think is the most important position or position groups for Joe Shane and Brian Daboll to attack in order to really improve this roster?
Yeah, that's a tough question because there's still a lot of holes on this team.
Mm-hmm.
I think offensive line depth is one thing we need to look at. We don't necessarily we need a swing tackle if we're not going to play Josh Azudu and we're not going to play Evan Neal.
Mm-hmm.
Those are Evan Neal. Well, actually, both of them we drafted. They're both kind of busts at this point.
Yeah,
and it's a real shame for Evan Neal to be a bust because we spent all that high draft capital on him. But yeah, I think we need to shore up the inside. I think John Michael Smits and Greg Van Roten and John Runyon are fine for right now. But if any one of them go down, we're kind of screwed.
we're in big trouble.
Yeah, we need some help there. I think we need to shore up the run defense, especially the interior defensive line depth. I think we need to get Dex a little bit of help in the middle. I think Leonard Williams really helped him out a lot last season before we traded him away.
I agree.
And ever since we lost him, I feel like we've been terrible against the run. Maybe look into maybe some linebacker depth, but corner for sure.
Yeah.
We need to be looking at secondary. I'm pleased with the safety play. I think the safety play has been good. Tyler Newman looks like he's gonna evolve into this really good, dare I say, Xavier McKinney. Yeah, like he looks like he could be that caliber of player, but maybe a little more of a downhill force than X was. But yeah, we need athletic corners that can cover zone if we're going to keep Shane Bowen. And those are probably my three positional needs outside of like QB.
Yeah, I would say, I guess if I were to prioritize, let's just assume, we don't sign anyone in free agency or we just sign like depth, right? And we still need the starters. If I were to make the draft picks, I would go quarterback in the first round. And then in the second round, I'm actually going to say wide receiver. Because I feel like you look at guys like T. Higgins, AJ Brown, all these wide receiver twos, not AJ Brown, but you understand what I'm saying. These guys, you can get them in the second round. We have Malik Neighbors, and though the offensive line is it's got its flaws, um, it wasn't just that the offensive line was terrible in years past. It was the offensive line was terrible, and our wide receiver one is Darius Slayton. So neither group is helping each other. I think we might get more of an impact from getting a wide receiver two in the second round, where you're sure it's going to hit. Now, this year's class was the class to get wide receivers. So I'm not sure what it's going to look like this upcoming year, but I definitely would consider wide receiver two in the second or third round, and then I would say corner or rotational offensive lineman with that third priority pick. And then after that, you're just kind of juggling depth and things of that nature. And you got free agency, of course. So that I think we're pretty much in agreement about how we would address this offseason and what we think Joe Shane needs to do to, restore confidence in the fan base and his ability to draft. Because even though I know I believe him, and I'm pretty sure you feel decent about Joe Shane. I mean, you can give your thoughts about him.
I love some of what he's done. I think he's done really good as far as getting trades done.
Yeah.
And acquiring picks for us, acquiring players for us. I think he has a lot of work to do when it comes to drafting. You mentioned the wide receivers. I forgot we had Jalen Hyatt on this team.
Yeah.
Like that's another draft bust that we can't have
that happening.
Zeros in the draft. That cannot be happening, especially when you're giving up draft capital to go up and get Jalen Hyatt. So, like, if you're going to do that, it needs to be a good pick, and he needs to be 100% sure that that's the right thing he's got to do in that situation. And as far as Daboll goes, I think he is a really good offensive mind. I think he has a lot he needs to work out when it comes to being just a head coach. He was really good when he was working with Alabama and when he was working on the Bills staff with Josh Allen. But he's not only handling all that responsibility, but he's the head coach of men. Like, this is the NFL. Like, you can't have all these hiccup plays. Can't keep having these procedural plays on offensive line where not plays, I mean penalties. Like you're just shooting yourself in the foot, and the team just week in, week out looks ill prepared to play a football game.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating as a fan that we have to pay to watch that crap on the field. So it's a I love certain aspects of both Joe and Brian Daboll, but I do think they are not 100% safe like John Mara says they are.
Yeah, Maris says they're 100% safe. I mean, if you ask me, you don't move on. I mean, you're not restarting like GM, coach, and quarterback. It's this team is not that far away, right? We mentioned a lot about this defense, and why it is inconsistent is because of game script, right? So let's just imagine we get a rookie quarterback who's like not bad, right? He's maybe like a Bo Nix. So he's going to galvanize the team. He's going to keep us competitive or in games. That could already, you get something like that. The defense goes from, say, it's going to probably finish like 15 to 10 this year.
Yeah,
It could
somewhere
go up
around
to
there.
like top 8, right? Because of just the game script alone. And like I said, you add someone like a wide receiver who has an impact on every play. Not that each position doesn't have an impact on every play, but we know how the league is this year or these days. A wide receiver too is a must, and we don't have it. So I think if you add like a couple pieces, you change the quarterback, this team could look completely different. And I'm nowhere near wanting to fire Shane or Daboll, though they've missed a couple picks. I think 60% or 50% is like a good hit rate on draft picks. So even though
Hmm.
we've busted on some big ones like Neal and Kayvon's been okay, he's been okay. I mean, he's got
I
hurt,
still
but
have faith in Kayvon.
yeah, I still got faith in him. But yeah, it's
He's just injured right now, so you're not seeing him out on the field, and
yeah,
it's tough to remember. Like I forgot about Jalen Hyatt, so like
yeah.
when they're not on the field, it's hard to remember
It's
these
hard to
players
remember, yeah, because you
sometimes.
you throw him out. I was attached to Jalen Hyde. I had a lot of hope for him, but it just didn't work out. He's not a well rounded wide receiver right now. He's just a deep threat, and we don't have that much time to block. So yeah, I think we stand pretty similarly about Daboll and Shane. I'd give it maybe 1 or 2 more years of if it's this bad, then I'd say, okay, well, it's just not working. But yeah, I think with a new quarterback, you give them a year or two to develop them and see where you are. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I personally genuinely believe that we're going to be in a much better position just with any new starting quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's like Fields leaves the Steelers and we pick him up as a bridge and then we decide to draft next year. I don't care what we do. We just need something different, and I think the team is just going to look better with that. So,
Now, I will say, if we lose every game at home this year,
mhm.
and dare I say, if we lose out the rest of the season, I think Dayball's on the hot seat.
Yeah.
I don't know if John Marin's gonna like that at all. So we'll see what happens. I want to give him a chance. He
Mhm.
hasn't gotten the pick as QB, and him and Joe Shane are working seemingly pretty well together.
Mhm.
So we'll see what happens there. But I think you just got to let the season play out and see what happens.
Yeah, I'll add real quick to what you just said. I think there's a difference. They could lose out in two different ways. They could lose out playing like they did the past 2 weeks, losing by
Mm-hmm.
8 points and losing by 5 points. If they lose out like that, I'm not mad at all. Because you know what? That reminds me of the Texans before they got Stroud. They were pretty competitive in every game, but they lost pretty much all of them,
That's
right?
pretty fair.
That's good for the culture, right? And the players are saying, hey, we're not that far away. We just got to make a few changes and we'll win these games. Football is a game of inches, much like many other sports. Only a couple players and plays can change that. Now, if we lose to the Panthers and lose like maybe by 10 points, get blown out by the Bucks, fail to beat a damaged Cowboys team and lose by 2 scores, don't beat the Saints, get destroyed by the Ravens, destroyed by the Falcons, run all over by the Colts, and run all over by the Eagles, and we lose by 2 to 3 scores in all those games. I do really think Daboll will be on the hot seat, and I actually would be questioning him at that point because my
Mm-hmm.
big bargaining chip for him is that, oh, he coaches better throughout the season. Look at what happened last year. If he doesn't show us that again, then I'm going to be a little concerned. As long as we're competitive, I'm going to say, he's good. But I agree. If we lose out and it's ugly, then he's going to be on the hot seat, and he might only have 1 more year. So yeah, that's my take on Joe Shane and Brian Dable. Is there
Mm-hmm.
anything else you have to say?
No,
No.
I just hope things get better for the Giants. I think we're both tired of seeing our team be a doormat for the
Yeah.
rest of the NFL. And I think it's time that we start getting back to the glory days of being a Giants fan,
Yeah.
the New York football Giants.
That's right.
So,
We've got a great history, and it's been so ugly, and the media picks on us now.
mm-hmm.
Nobody's defending us about this absolute disastrous call by the refs on the front. Like I've seen Mighty Might referees make better calls. Nope, guys, you all got to remember when the whistle is blown, the play is dead, and nothing after that counts. And they're still getting it wrong, and the media's like, "What a bad play by Daniel Jones," and I'm just like, "You guys are just doing this for clicks," and I'm sick of being the punching bag team. I'm so done with it, you know. And I don't blame the media for doing it because it's easy. They got to make their money, you know. They got to do it somehow.
This is New York, man.
This is New York. Yeah, we're gonna get the bad press when it's there to be had.
Malik Neighbors is finding out right now what that means.
Yeah, he is. He's getting everything he says, getting absolutely dissected. All Malik Neighbors hates Daniel Jones. He's in love with Jaden Daniels. He wants to leave, and I'm like, oh my god, not this again. I think he's a good player. He's a good kid. You know, It's like I don't think he means any harm, and I'd be frustrated too if I was him. So, yeah, I think
we just got to leave it at that. And
Yeah,
see what happens.
We just got to leave it at that, or else. Well, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep getting worked up. I usually try to keep it composed, but I'm gonna get worked up. Towards the end of the season, as the stakes are gonna get pretty high with the draft, and if we get blown out and stuff. So, yeah, we're just gonna leave it right here. I want to thank you all for watching this extra long special reaction video with my guest, Gene, my brother. I want to thank him for coming on and once again, inspiring me to be, I loved football when I was young, but watching him definitely contributed to it, kept it around and, is part of the reason why I'm, so supportive of, the Giants because I was very supportive of him when he was in high school watching him play. So all thanks to him. I hope you all enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Probably should have said that in the beginning, but do it. Right down there. It's right there. All it takes is one click to support the channel. And other than that, I'll see you guys in my Week 10 preview video. Peace out.